Firefighting Friday webinars. And this is where I actually do the how-to stuff that I actually teach. So that's the intro. Here's what we want to do. I want to show you these things today. I want to show you how to pull remote ASH data from like a remote database into your local database. And I'm going to do that using my BloodHound, my free BloodHound toolkit. And that's based on ASH. So really quickly, just one script, I'm going to show you how to do like an ASH time-based like profile or analysis. We're not going to dig into that. I have another webinar on that, and I'm sure I will do that in the future, but I want to show you that script. Then what we're going to do is we're going to notice that, or actually I'm going to tell you that there are some users that are experiencing this really odd behavior, and it's going to turn out to be a row level lock situation. So we're going to find the blockers and the waiters. We're going to develop a real general timeline. We're not going to get detailed, but we will be able to clearly see when the bad stuff starts and when it ends. And we're going to use that doing the tool. And then really the end game, what I want to get to today is so you can create a graph, a visualization of the locking situation at a point in time. And in this particular situation, you'll notice that it would have been extremely difficult to gain the understanding by looking at all the numbers than we can gain by looking at the visualization. And that's really cool. So to do this, the tools that we're going to use, besides real production data I'm going to use today, I'm going to use my free BloodHound toolkit, which is based on ASH. You can download that off my website for free. And we're going to use R, that is a free statistical package, which I had done some webinars on that already. So that's kind of the things I want to get done. So these are the ground rules for the webinars. Duration around 30 minutes. You can ask me any questions in the chat window, but be aware you are being recorded. All right. And feel free to personally email me, of course. And the recording, because this is being recorded, usually I can get that on within 3 to 4 hours. It just depends on some technical stuff and all that. And all the tools that I'm going to use in the webinar are free. So I also want to say, I always say this, I'm always looking for good webinar scenarios. So if you think you have a performance situation that you want me to take a look at, and maybe I can use it in one of the webinars, please email me. Don't send me an AWR report or any data, just email me and we'll start the dialogue. So here is the situation, true situation. There was a few users, they were freaking out, and they started calling the DBAs around 10:15 in the morning. And what they said was that their screen just froze and then it was released and it was just random and they had no explanation for it. And what's interesting, the freeze time could be anywhere from seconds to sometimes minutes. So it was just all over the place. And what we're going to see is that the overall system looks fine. In fact, fine's not such a good word. The overall system situation kind of masks the row level locking situation. That's one of the things I want to be able to show you. And the other constraint is that the DBAs, including myself here, only have select access from the production system, and we have no DB link access. So we have to be able to directly connect to the remote database, and then all we have is select privileges. So that's the situation. So my objective to find the blocker and their offending SQL, find the waiters and their SQL, and then we got to visually diagram this thing so we can understand what's going on. And as I said before, we're going to use my BloodHound tool to do the ASH analysis, and we're going to use R to create the visualizations. So let's go ahead and do it. I should have a good network connection today. Yes, I love that. Okay, first of all, the BloodHound toolkit. Where do you get that? It's super easy. Go to OraPub.com. One of the easiest ways is to type blood. I know that's kind of weird, but that's what you do. There's the BloodHound toolkit. In order for it to work, you need to have my OSM, my OraPub System Monitor Toolkit, installed first. It's super simple. You run one little script. It's a tar file when you download it, all that. And of course, there's a README file. And this is the installation instructions for the BloodHound toolkit. Essentially, you unarchive the file. You set up a couple environment variables, which is essentially you got to add your path and your Oracle path to the BloodHound scripts. That's it. It's super simple. You just click here and you can download it. All right. Once you've downloaded it, it's going to create a directory called BloodHound right there. And then you can see these are the scripts. So there's not a whole bunch of scripts, and it really doesn't need to be because I made this so it's super flexible. I want you to notice there's a README file right here. We're going to reference that when we do the visualizations because the commands are really cryptic to do the R visualizations. So I'm literally going to copy and paste part of the commands when we do this. And I have examples and I have a lot of details in that README file. So don't forget the README file when you start using BloodHounds. It's like a tutorial. It's just not it's not like regular documentation. So let's get into SQL Plus. And in my super high secure system here, we're connected on Oracle 12 is my local box. And this is the BloodHound menu is BH menu. And I'm going to actually make my screen a little bigger. There we go. I want to make it as easy as possible for you guys to see this thing. So there's the menu, and you can see there's lots of, or there's just the scripts. There's scripts right there. One thing I want to point out is there, as I mentioned here, that there is a lot of help in the actual script because these scripts are super flexible. So the command line, what you enter is not obvious. So what you do if you say, oh, I need to get some information about the wait time pulling from Ash, then this is the script I want to use. But then, you know, what's the usage? Actually look at the script in an editor, and I give you a number of examples of how to use it. And you'll see that when we get a little bit deeper into this. The first thing you need to do is BloodHound is we need to set the analysis scope. So we know what we're looking at. Where's the data, local, remote, all this kind of stuff. And to do that, we use the BloodHound set command. Okay. Parallel query is wonderful with this because we have a bunch of AWR data. I'm going to set my parallel query to 5. I set a default threshold so I don't get a bunch of noise, like just, you know, small numbers reported to me that I don't care about. And I'm going to take the default of that. And in this case, I'm going to pull from remote data from a remote system and load it into my local database to do the analysis. So this is a pretty cool part of the script. Now, normally what I would do, I would grab the DBA hist active says history, or I would reference that. I'm not going to pull the whole thing over. I would reference that. But in this case, I actually have a little subset of that table. And this is what I named it. Okay, so this is going to make this demo a lot faster if I use this. Okay, BloodHound needs to know if this is a DBA hist type table or is this a $V active session history type table. But there is a difference in some of the columns, and that's why I need to do that. So this is a DBA type. Okay, now this is where I connect to the remote system. So it's prod 40. And now I'm going to go over there and I'm going to pull some real simple basic information about the data that's available to me. In this case, there is one database ID, and that's the one that I actually want to use. And while this is a rack system, I just have one instance loaded over there. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do, I need to know, well, what's the range of the data? Well, if you recall, the user started getting upset and started calling around 10:15. All right, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to grab data about 9:30, just because, you know, I want to make sure I get before the bad stuff happened. Okay, and I want to go to about 11:30 is what I'm going to do. That way, in my analysis, I know I have you know, plenty of time before and after. Okay, so what's going to happen now is that I access the remote database. I actually use the copy command to do this. There's no DB link involved in this thing. I'm actually, you know, using the copy command. I connect, and it's pulling over just the data within this date and time range up here, and that's it. So there's about 25,000 rows, doing some indexing, gathering some statistics, all that kind of stuff. Oh, hey, by the way, can somebody put in the chat window if you can hear me? I want to make sure the audio is still working. Okay, I know it might be a strange question, but I'd really appreciate that. Great. All right. Thank you, Mark. Appreciate that. By the way, once I've set my analysis scope, I can actually make a copy of that table. So let's say I got a bunch of ASH data. Maybe I have a year of AWR ASH data, but my analysis scope is just a couple hours, or maybe it's even a day. What I can do, once I set the analysis scope, I can use this BH copy data script right here, and that will make a copy of the ASH data, just the range that I'm looking at right now. And then I can do another BH set. I can set my analysis scope and just reference that copy, which is a much, much smaller table. And your performance will be way better when you do that. So that's a little side note. That script is in the menu as well. So now my analysis scope is set. So what I want to do, I'm going to do a real quick, a little kind of a time-based like analysis, but it's based on sampling because it's ASH data. It's not time sysmodel data. So I'm going to use this summary command right here. And I just want to get a column that a percent sign will wildcard it. Basically, I'm saying I want a summary of the overall system where the flags column is anything, which means the whole flags is anything is just, it's kind of bogus right now, but we can use those parameters in some really creative ways, but we're not going to do that now. Okay, so I'm going to run that. That should just take a second. Now, by the way, here's the script we're running, this BH sum. And this is, I pulled this up in the editor here, made this super big so you could see it. But remember I told you that there's some actual usage examples right inside the script. All right, so here's an example of that and some different ways that you might actually want to use this. So I wanted you to see that. We'll be doing that again in some more detail later. Okay, so this is like an overall picture of the situation over this 2-hour interval. So it's a pretty wide interval, and usually I wouldn't do this, but I wanted to just for this example here. So what we're seeing based between 9:30, right, and 11:30 of all the ASH samples, about 40% of those, the sessions were active and on CPU. And by the way, when I say active, that means they're trying to process work, right? They're either burning CPU or they're waiting to burn CPU. So 40% are on CPU and around 60% were waiting. And when we're waiting, it's all about IO. Okay? And by looking at the wait events, we can see when I say all about IO, that's because clearly the top wait event here is DB file sequential read. So these are single block reads that the Oracle processes must do an IO call to the IO subsystem to get that. Okay, from India, Kumar, you said the audio is not good. All right. Shoot. I don't know what I can do about that. Is anybody else having audio problems? It could be my voice too. It's pretty raspy today. Let me take a drink of water. It's fine here in Ottawa. Okay. I'm going to keep going. Usually the recording, if you're having like audio issues where I go in and out, what I found is that the recording is actually pretty good, much better than some people actually experience. Okay, now this is a key point I want to make today. If I did a typical Oracle time-based like analysis using the ASH data, and even if this was an AWR report, I would say that this system right now, it is all about physical I/O primarily, as well as CPU, and that what we need to, one of the things we need to focus on is this DB file sequential read. Okay. However, see, in this situation, users are calling about a specific experience that they're having, and their experience, this kind of random freezing and releasing of their screen, is very much like a row level lock. But the point I'm trying to make is that normally I would ignore the row level lock right here, because this type of report and this top-down strategy that I'm looking at here is that I'm focusing on the overall instance. And so therefore, I would see the biggest opportunity for performance improvement would be focusing on the DB file sequential reads. But because users are calling and now I see the row level lock, I'm going to say, aha, we need to find out what's going on with this row level lock situation. So that's a very important distinction that I want to make sure that you actually get. Now, next what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of create a timeline of the situation. And how I'm going to do this is I'm going to just press return here, and because this can take a while to run, and then I'll explain to you what I actually just typed. Okay. Okay, I'm going to have to shrink my screen a little bit. So I could, this is a pretty wide carriage report here. All right, what I'm doing here is that I call this my BB tick for Big Bang tick. The Big Bang is answering the question, when did this all start? How did it all begin, right? The tick is in reference to, let's see, okay, the is in reference to, you can see these you can see the report lines here, each one of these. These are actually 60-second summaries of what was going on based on the ASH data. And I want 120 of these 60-second summaries. And if you recall, my analysis window, I set that to 2 hours. So if I have 120 60-second ticks, I'm going to report on that entire window. Okay? I don't have to report on that entire window. I can just look at the first 10, the first 20, whatever. I can also change the tick duration, because sometimes I want to look at a full day from an hourly tick perspective. And then as I drill down, maybe I want to get to a 15-minute tick perspective. And now I'm looking at a 1-minute tick perspective, and you can go down to like a 1-second tick perspective. It's whatever you want to do. So this is a super, super flexible report. Now you'll notice I got prompted for my SID right here. Okay, I wanted to enter that in because sometimes this report can take minutes to run if you have a lot of ASH data and you're reporting a lot of lines right here. So what you can do to check if this is actually running, it hasn't just locked up on you. Here's the SQL statement you can run in another session, and you will see that the session running this report is actually consuming CPU. So it is actually doing something. So I actually use that myself to make sure this thing is running. Okay, so let me just quickly explain what all these columns are, and then we're going to look for the row level lock. So obviously this is the date, the 29th of January. Oh, this tick is just the sequential number that I just made up. It's not referenced to anything intelligent. And here's the start time and the end time. So you can see this is just about 1 minute is what we're looking at right here, which is what we expect. So over this 1 minute interval, based upon the DBA active sesh history data, there was 24 active sessions, which means they were either consuming CPU or waiting to consume CPU. And there was 146 samples. Of those 146 samples, 49 were currently 49% of those were consuming CPU, 51% of those were waiting, and of those 51% waiting, 85% of those were waiting on an IO-related wait event. And the top wait event is DB file sequential read. Now that shouldn't be a surprise because that's what we saw when we looked at the overall system. So this top wait event is the top wait event based upon this 1 minute segment of time, or tick, I like to call. So I'm going to scroll down here, and eventually there's some row level locks. All right, so I'm going to highlight this so we can see this. So according to the ASH data, the row level lock started around 10:18. And the last example or data we have of that is about 10:31, 10:32. So from a timeline perspective, the row level locking became, let's just say, significant starting at around 10:18 and ended around 10:32. Now, as you recall, the user started calling around 10:15. So to me, this makes sense. See, there could have been row level locking activity already starting before 10:18, right? The row level lock situation could have started here, but there wasn't enough of it for the top wait event to be the row level lock activity. All right, so things are making sense here. So now what I want to do is I want to find the sessions that are experiencing this row level lock, okay? And what I'm going to do that, I'm going to run another script. Okay, and the script I'm going to run, I call it my timeline script because I'm actually going to look at specific sessions kind of based on all the data we have on them. Okay, but let me show you the script that I'm going to run. And this is my timeline script, the Big Bang timeline script. I'm going to look at all the sessions, starting from session ID 0 to all 9s. But I only want to show the sessions and their activity when they are currently waiting and the wait event looks like this, which is our TX NQ weight. I also want to show an additional column on the report, and I could put any ASH column I want here, but in this situation, the blocking session is going to be really useful to me. Okay, so I want to show you this script also, so you can kind of see. Here we go. So you can actually see some of the help that I have in here. So there's the script, and that's probably really small for you guys to see, but I'm going to open that up in the editor, and it's going to get us massive. There it is. So this is my timeline script right here, and tell you about kind of the strategy to use. And here are a bunch of examples of how to do this. I'm going to use this two different ways. First, we're going to look at all the sessions, which is this kind of example right here. And then we're going to look at a specific session, which is going to take this kind of format, where 841 is the starting SID and 841 is the ending SID. All right. So let's go ahead and press enter. Here we go. And there's going to be a bunch of pages are going to come back. Let's see if I can get this whole thing on the screen here for you. Nice. I was able to get it. Okay, there's a lot of data here. Notice this is page 35. So we're going to go up till it get to around 1015, 1020, which is where the bad stuff started, right? All right, I'm sure this looks horrible in a webinar. Okay, here we go. It's about 1020 right now. Okay, and boom, look at all the row level. Well, that's just showing the sessions that have experiencing row level lock. And there's a bunch of sessions. Okay. Okay. Now there's a couple observations that I want you to see. Okay. All right. One of the first observations, there are enough sessions that are actually waiting on the row level lock. Okay. And these sessions, they wait for multiple seconds, some of these. If you look at the SIDs, let me get where I can see some here. There's actually kind of a rate. You see, there's session 366. Here's session 366 again. And I bet you there's another 366. There's the other 366. Okay. So these guys are waiting for multiple seconds. Okay. The other thing that is interesting here is that they are all running the same SQL ID. So this SQL ID is kind of at the center of all this row level locking, which is kind of unusual. I don't really see that. So that's something else that's kind of unique. But even more unique, I think, is that look at the blocking sessions. There's a number of sessions that are involved in the blocking. You see, not the situation where one session gets on, starts doing some update, and then takes a break and goes to lunch or something, and then everybody else starts to back up behind them. There are multiple sessions that are locking other sessions. They're all running the SQL ID, and there's a bunch of sessions that are actually waiting. So it's actually a very complex situation from a row level lock perspective. So what I want to do is I want to just pick one of the blocking sessions that I see is actually blocking quite a bit for quite a while. And I think the session that I want to look at, because I've done this a few times here, is the session 2262. If you go down, you'll see there's 262, 2262, 2262. There, it's all over the place. You'll see it keeps going, and it's just all over. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to run the same script, but just for this session. And we're actually going to, in a sense, watch this session. Okay, so to do that, I'm going to use the same script, but different parameters. So here are the parameters I'm going to run, or the script with the parameters. My Big Bang timeline script. I just want to look at this one session. And I don't care if it's burning CPU or waiting. And when it's waiting, show me the row, regardless of the weight of it. And the additional column that I want to see is the program. Now, I might want to put the module, the action, the client identifier. I can put any ASH column I want to there, but I'm just going to do the program. All right, so let's take a look at this one. Boom. All right, I'm going to have to shrink this a little bit. So, because that wrap just bugs the heck out of it. All right, so I still had 12 pages on this. So let's go back up till around 1020. Here we go. All right. So this is bizarre. I don't know if you guys noticed this, but All right, first of all, here's the session, the 2262. This is what we're looking at. Notice the SQL ID, the session is running right here. Look familiar? That's the SQL ID. But even more bizarre, I mean, this is more bizarre, that our blocker, right? This is a blocker, right? 2262. In this situation, it is also waiting on a row level lock. Okay, so picture this in your mind. We have sessions that are waiting on session 2262 on a row level lock. But this session, 2262, is also waiting on a row level lock that some other session is actually holding. So we have a potential for a deadlock situation right here. I mean, this is really bizarre, okay? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to actually pick one of these ASH sample IDs right here, and we're going to take a snapshot of the situation, and we're going to look at this graphically, okay? So to do this, in fact, the timeline I'm going to pick, or the time, is 7:07:18. I want to do 8681. 8681. So this is the time I'm going to look at. We're going to visually get a snapshot of what was going on. Whoops. Oh boy, I don't want that. At, what was that? 10:20? 26. Yeah. I want to get a snapshot of what was going on at 10:20 and 46 seconds. And I have a number of detailed levels that we can look at this data. So I'm going to run the report first. That's going to give us some detail. And then we're going to boot up R here, and we're going to create some pictures. So this is the script. This is the Big Bang visual, and this is level 1. That's what the L1 is for. We're going to look at level 1 and level 2 today. The minus sign here, that is kind of that's a separator, and I'll show you that in a second when I run this. There's the minus right there. The reason the minus is there is when we use the R statistics package, we need the dash right there. That's the separator. But sometimes I use another tool called Mathematica, and its separator is a dash and then a greater than sign. So this way I can use this on whatever tool that I want to use. So this is the data that we're actually going to graph, and it's pretty straightforward, but we really don't have to get into this. But you can see that session 1035 is waiting, and the type of wait event is an IO read wait event. This is all this actually means. Now, how do we do this graphing stuff? All right. What we do is we look at the README file. This is the README file for BloodHound. And use this at your own risk. Don't call me if there's any problems. Call me if there's a problem with the script. There's just stuff in here. A number of examples, like I said. I try, and this is like a tutorial. But way down here is the visualization stuff. Let's see. Your Big Bang analysis, visualizing what happened. And that's what we want to do right here. Okay. So I want to get down to, okay, first you have to install R, right? There's the website to get it. I have a webinar actually on that and a number of blog entries related to that as well. You're going to have to install a couple packages. One's called iGraph and the other is this TCL-TK. That's like the old tickle. You guys remember that? So we're going to have to install those. I actually did that, and so I don't need to do that again. That'll take a couple minutes. But this is what I do need to do. I have to load this library. And then I basically set my data. This is my graphing data here that I'm going to graph for you. Just as a quick example, that's going to store the output of that in this my data variable. And then I'm going to do a plot of my data. And then we're going to do a TK plot on the data as well, because there's two different ways that we can plot this. So I'm going to show you both of those. Okay, so let's start R. You know, I've been covering up the chat window here. So I don't know if you guys have been asking me questions. Okay, dang, the audio. That is too bad, man. Okay, thanks for hanging in there on the audio. And I need that feedback so I can try and make this better and better. I'm not sure if it's my cruddy voice or what's going on. Okay, so there's R. I've started up using just the standard R console. In fact, I'm going to try and make that a little bigger. There we go. Oh, yeah, you got to love that. All right, you can be half blind. We'll see that. Okay, so we're going to the iGraph. So I'm going to type, or the iGraph library. So I'm going to type library, whoops, iGraph, and it should just take a second for that to load. All right, now for the My Data, I'm actually going to copy and paste that. Okay, since I'm sure I'll make a mistake if I do that. All right, there's the My Data, that's loaded. So now what am I going to do with that? Well, I want to plot it. So I'm going to do plot, My Data. Boom, there's the picture. Is that cool? There it is. So essentially what I plotted is this data right here, right? There's a connection between A to B, a connection to B to C, C to A, and there's a connection from B to D, and finally A to D. So that's the graph. All right, pretty straightforward. Wow, isn't that great? All right, now we're going to do a TK plot because there's something cool with TK plot. TK plot, My Data, and we're going to use TK plot when we do. We're going to need to use it when we do this complex one. Okay, first of all, there's a number of layouts here. Sir, I can't make that any bigger. Well, I guess I can on my Mac. I can do this kind of thing. Okay, but there's layouts. I can center it, and then I can fit it to the screen. That's pretty cool. Now, one of the big advantages over the TK plot, over just the plot, is this. Look at that. I'm hoping you can see that on the webinar. You can drag and you can move these around. Now, if you got a lot of points, which we're going to have, this burns CPU and it can actually slow down. But this is going to be useful to us because the plotting algorithm tries to do the best it can do, right, in terms of kind of spreading everything out. But sometimes it's not perfect, at least the way that we want to see it. So we can use the dragging to kind of move stuff out of the way so we can better see what's actually going on. Okay? All right. So let's look at this with some real data. All right. The other thing I've done here is that if you set your, all the data here to this My Data variable, I've actually pre-created a plot. You see it pulls from My Data right there. And I have a TK plot also pulling from My Data. So these defaults tend to give you a pretty good graph for the kind of information that we're trying to display. All right, so what I'm going to do, and this is how you would actually do this. I'm going to copy just the beginning of the formula command right here. Okay, I'm going to paste that. Okay, now I'm going to go to SQL Plus. I'm going to take my data here. Okay, I'll go all the way down to the bottom. Is that the end? No, that's not the end. And I'm going to take everything except that last comma there. Okay, so I have all my data right there for this particular ASH snap ID. I'm going to copy it. You can't see this, but I just did a copy. I'm going to go back into R. What the heck happened here? Hold on. Here we go. There's R. I'm going to paste that. I'm just going to put a closing paren, and boom, this thing should start. Come on. Oh, I just loaded the data. Man, I started to panic here. I just loaded the data. I didn't plot anything yet. I'm lucky there wasn't a heart monitor connected to me because I would have just exploded it. All right, so there's the plot command. Let me press enter, and come on. I'm going to get ticked. There we go. This is so cool when you're looking at it. It kind of forms in slow motion. So I'll make this bigger, and there you go. Now, this is going to be difficult for you guys to see, but right here, this says CPU right here. I wonder if I can highlight that out. This says CPU. And so these are all the sessions that are on CPU. They're burning CPU during this ASH snapshot. Over here, these are all the sessions that are waiting for a non-IO wait event. What I'm circling here says wait other. So these are all the sessions waiting for a non-IO wait event. And so our row level lock sessions are going to be in here somewhere. Down here, these are the wait. This is for wait IO read. So all these sessions are waiting on an IO read wait event. And over here, there are two sessions waiting on an IO write wait event. So this gives you kind of a high level perspective on, like how many sessions are waiting, how many sessions are on CPU, and is it more IO or something else? Okay. For our purposes, it's really not that useful. Okay. So we're going to move on to level 2, and that's what we're going to end on here. So we should actually finish it pretty quick. To do that, we need to run the level 2 script. And so I'm going to pull that, get back into SQL Plus here. So everything is exactly the same in the script, except we have the level 2. So I'm going to press return, and you'll see we get some more detail. We actually have the wait events now. And this is, in this case, this is the blocking session. All right. And so we're going to go up to the top here. Paste that. I want to grab the beginning formula command here. So since what I'm going to do, I'm going to replace this my data variable with this new data. All right. We don't need this much SQL Plus room here. Okay. Come on. There we go. Okay, back into R. Here's the my data. So I'm going to go up here, just like I did before. I'm going to copy. I'm going to grab it, copy it. I'm going to paste it into R. Closing, boom. Now my data contains all this information. What we want to do, we want to plot it. So I'm going to use plot command, and I'm going to use my plot command here. And we're going to plot this, and it's going to look like a bunch of nothing because there's so much data. It should show up here and start rendering in a second. When I do the webinars, there's so much memory and CPU stuff going on. It takes a long time for this to happen. But if you look over here, you can see this rendering, and it finished. And there's a lot of stuff going on here. This is actually a lot better than I thought it was going to be, but you can still, I mean, you can't really see this, but over here, this is all the weights related to DB file sequential read. These are all the weights related to the row level lock. And you notice this, there's kind of a star pattern here. We're going to see that in more detail. And over here, these are all the sessions that are on CPU. Okay. So, okay, that's all great and everything, but that's really not going to highlight what we need to see. So we need to see the T-plot. Okay, now this takes a minute to render on my Mac here, on my Mac here. Okay, and this also runs X Windows too, believe it or not. So if you see down here, I got a little X11 running on my Mac. So this burns some CPU. There it goes. Got it. That was pretty quick. So I'm going to make this thing big here. Hey, thanks, Chase. I appreciate you joining the webinar. You got to drop off. This will be recorded, so you can watch the rest of it. Okay, the view. We're going to center this, and then we're going to fit it to the screen. Boom, there we go. What we want to look at is over here. This is the row level lock stuff. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to screenshot just this part, and so we can zoom in on it. But I want to make sure that we can see everything really good. So I'm going to stretch this out a little bit. You know, it did a really good job of rendering this. It was much better than it usually does. All right, so I'm going to screenshot this on my Mac. Got it. And there's the file right there. I'm going to close this because this sucks up memory like crazy. Okay. Okay, and now I can just pull this thing way out and everybody can see it. All right, now it's a little pixelated, okay, but that's kind of just the way it is. That's the best you can do. I can do with free software right here. All right, now I got to find my cursor. I don't know where my cursor, oh, there it is. It's over here. Okay. All right, first of all, in the middle here, everyone is running the SQL statement. That's that PPQ SQL statement. That's the one that we saw when we were looking at detailed data. So the first thing you want people to understand is that all these sessions are running the same exact SQL ID. Okay. Now let me explain how to actually read this. Let me get a simple one here. Let's see. Here we go. I'm going to start with this session right here. In fact, I want to start. Yeah, I'm going to start with another session here. I'm going to start with this one right here. Okay. See this session right here. This is session, it's hard for you to see this, but this is session 1181 is running this SQL statement. There's the connection, and it's waiting on a row level lock being held by session 679. Well, let's take a look at session 679. There it is. Session 679 is also running this same SQL statement, and it's waiting on also a row level lock held by session 416. Well, what's session 416 doing? Well, there it is. Session 416 is also running the same exact SQL ID, and it's waiting also on a row level lock, which is being held by session, or the blocking session there is session 1418. Let's look at session 4148. Session 4148 is running the same SQL ID, and it's also waiting on a row level lock held by session 841. Okay, what's session 841 doing? Okay, this is going to get really interesting here in just a minute. Session 841 is running the same SQL statement, and it's waiting on a row level lock held by session. All right, here's the link. It's held by a lock held by session 1418. But what's session 4148 doing? It's running the same SQL ID, and it's waiting for a row level lock held by session 841. Okay, you see the pattern here. What's session 841 doing? It's running the same SQL ID, and it's waiting for a lock held by session 1418. What's 4148 doing? It's running the same SQL ID, and it's waiting on a lock held by 841. Okay, you see the pattern here. If I say this quicker, session 841 is waiting for a lock held by 1418. What's session 1418 doing? It's waiting for a lock held by session 841. So there's the deadlock. It's 841 and 841. It's just caught in a loop right here. And you'll notice when I started this, we started over here. In fact, I could have started over here to the bottom right, and that would have led me all the way over following the connections to session 1418 and session 841. So the core of this is session 1418 and session 841, but everybody's running the same SQL ID right here. So what's going to happen when one of these two sessions, 1418 or 841, once one of those back off and releases the lock, then everything else will just unwind. Okay. All right. Now, one thing I've noticed, I'm just about ready to finish up here, guys, is that you see this is kind of a star pattern right here. I've noticed when I see star patterns like this that there's deadlock situations. And that's just something I've kind of noticed over time by looking at this. Okay, we're going to finish up here. And I'm actually going to, well, if you have any more questions when we officially sign off, I'll be happy to dig into this a little bit deeper. But that's kind of the official finish here. So bring us back to the main piece here. Remember, I'm always looking at scenarios. Don't forget about that. I'd love to use your data. And ending notes, the recording should be online in just a few minutes. The next webinar is probably going to be the week after next. Okay, I don't know the date yet, but it's in July, obviously. And I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet. So if you have any things you'd like me to demo, let me know. Okay, I'm highly influenced by what you want to hear. And as soon as it's posted and I know the date, I will send out emails to everybody on the list and post it on the website. If you have any questions, comments, please do email me. Okay, so we are at the official end of this webinar. I will be online here for a while if anybody wants to chat about anything. But for those of you that want to go, thanks for joining me, and I'll hopefully see you in a couple weeks. Thanks for joining us, guys. Hey, Paul, thank you very much from Utah. I really appreciate it. I appreciate the encouragement. This is extremely stressful for me to do these live webinars, so I appreciate the encouragement. Everybody else have a great weekend also. And those of you in the U.S. have a fantastic 4th of July. I'm looking forward to some time off. So I'll stay on here for another couple of minutes if anybody has any more questions or anything. Stay cool in Portland. Yeah, it's going to hit 100 here, I think, today, Fahrenheit. Hey, thank you, Jeffrey. Really appreciate it. Firdes, I think, from Ontario. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Dimitri from Moscow. Awesome. I didn't know we had anybody on here from Moscow. Thank you for joining us. And Mark from Ohio, thank you. Really appreciate it. Thanks for giving me the audio checks and all that kind of stuff. That's very helpful to me. I'll stay online. Any questions anybody has? If you want me to do another visualization or, alter some command, I'd love to do that. Okay, I'll be on for another couple minutes. I'm not going anywhere. Usually some people start to have a couple questions and then we get a little round going here. Let's see, Barry. Hey, you're welcome. You're welcome. I appreciate it, man. You want to see some other variation of this. Okay, VPN from Washington, state of Washington. Can you give me some more specifics? What do you mean a variation? A variation of the plot, or do you want to see another, like another snapshot of what's going on, like a different ASH sample ID? I can do either one of those. Another snapshot. Okay, let's do it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll up and let's look at a different snapshot. That's the easiest thing to do. Maybe that's not the easiest thing to do. I think I can actually do that. I wonder what the recording of this is going to look like when I just scroll like crazy. All right, so here's when stuff was happening, right? This session is blocking a number of people right here. Okay, let's just pick this one. And it's running the same SQL ID. So let's pick this one, okay? Let's do that. And that happened at 9:47 before we started getting the call. So let's take, oh, wait. 4-1. Wait, Paul said 4-1. There was another one on the bottom right. But are you referring to a session or you're referring to something else there? Or is it a different? I'm not sure what you're asking. Okay, I'm going to go with this snapshot ID right now. Okay, another one at the bottom right of the last star. Okay, stay online, Paul. When I'm done visualizing this, I will reopen this file right here, and we'll do that. Okay, so let's get back into SQL Plus. And, I need to know my command to, I am in SQL Plus. Okay. What's the command here? We're going to go straight to level 2, okay? Okay, it's BHB visual. Whoa, okay. BHBB visual level 2. There's the ID, and there is the dash. Okay, so we need to go. I need to set my data. So I got to get into R. Where's it? Oh, did I exit? No, there's R. All right, so my data. Okay, let's grab it. Gonna copy it. Gonna paste it. So now my data contains what I want to plot. And here's my plot command with all the nice defaults. It's kind of fun. There are a number of variations. You'll see that, as you see the layout right here, this is a specific layout, the kawaii layout, or whatever. But there are different layouts you can do. And you can change the colors, the gray. I could not figure out how to change the background color, though, because right now it's kind of dark gray. I wanted it to be white because that would make it easier to see what's going on, but I couldn't figure that out. Okay, it should show up here in a second. Here we go. Okay, and once it starts, it goes really fast. All right, so we're going to do. I'm going to center it. I'm going to fit it to the screen. Okay. There's the row level lock situation, right? Oh, wait. Oh, somebody's on CPU row level lock. Okay, there's a star. You see the star right here? Here we go. All right. This is cool looking, man. So I want to, I grabbed the label, not the dot itself. Here we go. Okay, I want to make sure we can see this really good. That's actually pretty nice right there. Okay, I'm a little confused by this one. So, whoops, again. Hold on here. Dang, oh, I had it. Okay, I think this is the one that's bugging me here. You see, there's a delay. I did click. I swear I clicked on something there. Oh, there it went. Okay, this is kind of confusing to me here because this has got 3 different connections. Oh, no, I think we're good. All right, so I'm going to screenshot that, and so we can zoom in on this, okay? All right. All right. Oh, let me close this. That'll free up a bunch of memory, I am sure. Come on. Close, close, close. All right. Here we go. Okay, let's get that nice and big so you guys can see it. Okay, so let's take a look. We're running that same SQL ID. Here we go. Running the same SQL ID here. So let's just pick one of these and kind of follow it. So let's just pick this one. This is session 366. It's running the SQL ID. Okay. And it's not burning CPU. It's waiting. And it's waiting on this row level lock right here, which is held by session 1215. Okay. Let's see what session 1215 is doing. Oh, that's one I highlighted. What is session 1215 doing? Again, it is running the same SQL ID, but it's waiting for row level lock held by session 1132. Here's session 1132. What's session 1132 doing? It's running the same SQL ID, and it's waiting on a row level lock held by 2115, which is this session. So here's the loop right here. It's these two sessions, 2115 and 1132. So they're like in that deadlock situation. And if I started anywhere on this star, it would lead me back to session 2115 and session 1132. Okay? So that's that one. Pretty straightforward, right? So there's a couple cool things. You tell your manager, you say, hey man, what's up with this SQL statement? Why is everybody running this thing? What are the bind variables? What's going on with that, right? And then you might want to find out, well, anything special about these two sessions? Probably not, It's probably more of an application issue that we got to deal with here, which I actually rarely say that it's just all about the application. Okay, so the other thing, on the other graphic, Paul, you wanted to see something on the bottom right. Okay, let's see, 411 or 418. Where's 418? I don't see 418. Okay, well, how about 1818? Oh, sorry, it was 1418. Okay. Where's 41? Where's 41? All right. Oh, okay. So it's near the top. Oh, there it is. Thank you. It's tough to see when you're live here. Okay, so we want to do 1418. Oh, and 841. Okay, so do you want me to talk? I'll just assume you want me to talk through that unless there's something else you want me to look at. So, okay, what I do is I want to start with the blocking session. So for this wait event right here, it's session 1418 is the blocking session. So that's the session that I have highlighted. So now I say, okay, what is this session doing? Okay, this session is running this SQL ID, and it's not burning CPU. It's waiting on a row level lock held by session 841. So now I see what's 841 doing. There it is. Okay, it's running the same SQL ID, and it's waiting on a row level lock, and the blocker is session 1418. So that's the loop there. Oh, okay. You said it was. You just want me to talk forever, don't you? Yeah, that's funny. Okay, so let's go 2045. There we go. There we go. Okay, so we're going to start with 2045. And you also said it is blocking 5 surrounding it. Yeah, that's right. Yep, that's right. All of these sessions right here are waiting on a row level lock that is held by or blocked by session 2045. That is correct. And so what I do, in fact, let me just read off one of those. Let's pick this session right here. This is a nice one out here. So this is session 1374. It's running the SQL ID, okay, but it's not burning CPU. It's waiting, and it's waiting on a row level lock held by 2045. So you say, what's 2045 doing? There's 2045. It's running the SQL ID, but what's it waiting on? Or it's not burning CPU. Otherwise, we'd have a link to a CPU diagram over here, right? But it's waiting. What's it waiting on? Row level lock held by 2262, and there's 2262. So this is an example where if I follow this, it would go all the way around this star, until I got to session 841 and 1418. Pretty cool, huh? I love this stuff, man. This is awesome. Awesome. Thanks for asking. Would it get messy if we have many SQL IDs involved? Yeah, I'm sure it'll get really messy then. And that's one reason why I picked these, because I knew there was one SQL ID involved. There could be. I guess you could get, you could get in a row level lock situation, right? Where there's two different SQL IDs that are locking the same row. And that would be even more complex then. In this case, it happens to be one SQL ID. So now we know the SQL statement we need to look at. And we could also look at the ASH data to see what module this SQL ID is in, because it could be in different modules, right? It could be in one module, and that could help us identify where it physically resides in the application. I won't do that right now in front of you, because I got to think about that for a second, but we could actually do that without any problem. Okay. Anything else? I'll stay on here for a couple more minutes if you guys have any other questions. I don't mind doing this at all. This is part of what I do. Hopefully, so it actually generates some revenue for me, and then I can keep doing these for a long time. You're welcome, Paul. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right. Let's see if we have anybody else left. A few people. Slovakia. I didn't know we had anybody from Slovakia. Utah. A couple people from Utah. And Washington. Okay, guys. Any other questions? We're going to sign off here in just a minute.